pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could everybody remain standing, please, for a moment of silence for our recently deceased zoning board member, Lenny Lim, we lost on Saturday. 29 years of service to the zoning board, so my condolences to the family. Thank you. Okay, get right into it. Approval of minutes, monthly meeting June 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Workshop meeting of June 7th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Conservation Board.
Conservation Board met on June 13th. Couple items of new business. 49 J. Cox Road, we're seeking a permit for management of non-invasive species using mechanical tools. The Conservation Board approved the permit on the condition that the SECRA short form was completed. The application was incomplete. 346 Indian Brook Road, the applicant is seeking permits for expansion of an existing dwelling and replacement of a septic tank. The Conservation Board planned a site visit to review the site. A matter of old business, Boscobel Restoration is seeking a permit for the application of herbicides to eradicate non-native lawn and undesirable vegetation for meadow restoration. So this is kind of the meadow around the pond at Boscobel, and they're planning to apply, or they're asking for a permit to apply herbicides to basically kill that existing lawn, to replant it with kind of specimens from the pre-colonial period. I think that's how they were discussing it. They've been in front of the Conservation Board for a number of meetings. Community members have come out and expressed concern about the applications of those herbicides, how they're going to monitor that it doesn't move into the pond and wetland areas or neighbors. And they've brought in a number of experts that are working on that project, and they've proposed that they would make the first application of these herbicides on this, nearly 2-acre site at the end of June. They would then mow. They'd have a second spraying in September and a final in October, with a seeding for the new plantings in December. The Conservation Board issued a conditional permit. And that conditional permit was based on extending some protections around that pond to make sure nothing could seep into it, having to do before and after soil and water samplings to make sure none of that herbicide moves into the soil or water, taking before and after pictures of the application, and notifying the Conservation Board a week before the application of the herbicides. And the Conservation Board, you're going to see just dead area from 9D. There are going to be a lot of questions about it. So Boscobel plans a public ad and an announcement about what they're doing and why they're doing that in the fall, which I'm sure people will respond to and they'll get questions about.
They should just let me take care of the grass, because I kill everything.
So you should put that solution on the table, Supervisor. Another matter of old business, 16 Fox Hollow Lane, seeking a permit to repair an existing bridge. They amended their plans to make sure that none of that building would let things into the stream. The Conservation Board approved a permit. And then finally, 3012 Route 9 was submitting plans, maintenance plans for invasive control, and the Conservation Board approved that permit. The next meeting of the Conservation Board will be Tuesday, July 11th at 7:30. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Conservation Board. And Max. Recreation.
Good evening. The Recreation Commission did not meet this month as summer camp kicked off. And it kicked off to a full house despite crazy weather and hazy skies from the wildfires. Campers were able to spend most of the week outdoors, thankfully. The camp is mostly at full capacity for the remaining 7 weeks, and that includes baseball, volleyball, and basketball sports camps, which are held at Haldane. We're grateful that we can hold those sports camps at Haldane. The Recreation Department is also happy to report that many of the waitlisters have been added into the program as family travel schedules continue to evolve over the summer break, leaving openings for a number across grade levels. The Recreation Department ended the school year on a really strong note, graduating 14 of the preschoolers and celebrating all of the children's achievements with a year-end celebration in June. The Depot Theater also had big successes over the spring. They reported sold-out shows for all of the Guys and Dolls performances. The Depot is also hosting 2 sizable summer camps this summer through the Rec Department, which will result in productions of both Bugsy Malone and The Prom. The Rec Department continues to do some summer programming based on instructor availability and running a handful of programs for adults and seniors throughout the month of July. All programming will resume in September at the start of the school year.
Thank you. Thank you, Rec Department. Philipstown Hub.
The Philipstown Hub had 279 contacts in the month of June. Their year-to-date contacts are 3,830 people that have been reached through the Philipstown Hub. Active cases are 38. The Hub continued the senior programming up until last week, and this program ran every Friday from January through June and was funded through a grant to the Hub from the Field Hall Foundation. The feedback from the program has been very positive. Seniors report this allowed them to voice concerns and gain insight into different resources for seniors, like Are You OK? Through the Putnam County Sheriff's Department, as well as certain doctors that make home visits for seniors. The seniors said they look forward to these weekly conversations and enjoyed having a therapy dog event once a month. Thank you to the Philipstown Hub.
Planning Board, Bobby is not here this evening, but we will get a double report next month from Bob. So, zoning.
Good evening. I was actually not able to attend the meeting in July. There's no meeting in August, and if you need any information regarding the zoning board, you can check the website, and they'll be back on September 12th for their monthly meetings. So.
And I guess, unfortunately, we're going to have an opening on the ZBA as well, which
Yes,
will have
so
to
it's
discuss. We'll see that in here. Okay, so highway, I have the highway permit. I'll read that. To Philipstown Town Board members from Adam Holtelling. Work performed by the Philipstown Highway Department for the month of June. This month, crews are grading, and have now started mowing, and sweeping for the season. Crews were also filling potholes after washouts caused by recent heavy rains and chipping low-hanging tree branches obstructing views of the road. Guide rail repair was completed on East Mountain Road North due to a car accident late in May. Wells have been drilled as required by the DEC for the new garage. The Highway Department received 17 phone calls, emails regarding road concerns and issues for the month of June. For the month of June, the Highway Department spent approximately $8,400 in vehicle maintenance and repairs, above submitted by Adam Holtelling, Highway Superintendent. Building and land, I have nothing. Bobby's not here. Cemetery Committee?
So the tree that was down in the cemetery that was behind the Haldane School. Cedar, thank you. That was taken care of by Lee Trees. They were able to remove that yesterday, and then all the flags are going to be removed this weekend. We thought that it would be great to just keep them up through the 4th of July. So we'll be able to gather those flags, and they'll be ready for next year for Memorial Day through July 4th going forward. So.
Okay, we're going to go right on to the agenda.
First is a resolution authorizing the Highway Department to approve the quote from Minardi's Excavating LLC to construct a wall in front of the highway garage for $4,500.
So this wall will go along the road, basically where the trailers were. They want to go out a little bit further to create another terrace there, so it'll give a little more space in the front of the garage. Adam did seek 3 estimates, and this one, the only one that responded was Minardi Excavating for $4,500. So that'll be for the, it says rental for the operator, build the rock wall in front of the garage, and the material will be supplied by the highway department. So if I could get a motion to support the highway department for $4,500 improvement for a wall in front of the garage.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution authorizing the return of escrow for Daniel Schaublin and Mimi Fortunato, 359 East Mountain Road South, Cold Spring, tax map number 17338, and this is for the planning board.
All right, so the planning board has approved the return of the escrow. They met the requirements of the site. So if I can get a motion to approve this, the return of escrow for Daniel Schaublin and Mimi Fortunato.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution approving the intermunicipal agreement for code enforcement services with the Village of Nelsonville, and this is a roll call vote.
So I met with Mayor Winward and the clerk from the Village of Nelsonville with Greg and myself. We went over the process on how it would work. Greg is comfortable with taking on the additional permits. He said they said it's usually between 2 and 10 per month. The fee we based on our arrangement with the Village of Cold Spring. We utilized the number of homes in each of the communities and divided it by the rate that we charged the Village of Cold Spring, and we applied the same rate per home to the Village of Nelsonville. And I believe it came out to like $485 per month. Is that the number that was on there? I believe so. So, you know, Greg's happy to take it on. Greg is going to be looking for assistance. We had somebody doing it part-time. They were hired full-time by Putnam County, unfortunately. So we are in need of another inspector. Greg does a lot of the legwork, and he has to go out and do the inspection. So we will be seeking another part-timer, 20 to 25 hours a week to assist in the building department. We do have a couple leads on one gentleman who just retired from another place looking for part-time, and also there was a woman who worked for the Village of Cold Spring for a while who was also seeking part-time employment. So we're going to reach out to them hard again to try to get them to make a commitment to the town to assist Greg. So if I can get a motion, or do we need, is this a roll call? Yes. Yes, so we'll do a roll call vote to approve the intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Nelsonville. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? I'm sorry. Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Bobby's out here. Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution approving the license agreement to allow the Continental Village Fire Department to construct the proposed firehouse improvements encroaching onto the roadway bed of Spy Pond Road, and authorizing the supervisor to execute all documents necessary to effectuate the terms therein, and this is a roll call vote.
So we've discussed this on a few occasions with the board. The Continental Village Fire Department wants to add a very small foyer, like an airlock outside their door, to improve heating and cooling, also allow people to drop packages without entering. Unfortunately, the front of their building is already on the roadway, which isn't truly a roadway, it's just their parking lot, but it is considered a roadway as part of the town. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them a license to go ahead and construct this foyer. They wanted to do it over the summer so they can take advantage of the better building months. And then, Steve, would you like to explain the process for the rest of it?
Spy Pond Road has 3, maybe 4 residences along it where it hooks up.
To the firehouse.
Yeah, where it connects with, what's the roadway it connects with?
I can never
Something,
remember.
Turnpike Expressway, I forget the name of the,
It'll come to me as soon as we leave.
no. But anyway, the main road that it connects with.
Right.
And after that, it ends in a large paved turnaround parking lot, whatever you want to call it. The fire company owns 5 of the lots around it, but the road bed, which runs under the parking lot, belongs to the town. Over the course of the years, the fire company's etched out like parking spaces and things like that, and actually already has built a small area of the firehouse into what's technically the road bed. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the town to own and maintain that parking lot. It really should be the fire company who's doing it, and they're willing to take it over as far as the parking lot goes. The issue is, of course, that the town still has to maintain the rest of Spy Pond Road, so you got to plow it and sand it and salt it. If you give them the parking lot at the end of it, it makes sense to take back an easement for the town to turn around its vehicles in there and continue back out the other way on the road. And if they need to use it for paving or other maintenance, the right to park in it. I talked with counsel for the fire company. They're fine with that. They have a survey prepared. And if it's the board's pleasure, what's going to happen is we'll prepare a deed from the town to the fire company for what's basically their parking lot now, the end of Spy Pond Road. And the board will adopt a resolution declaring that portion of the roadway surplus and abandoning it and deeding it over to the fire company. You can deed it over to the fire company without consideration because they're another municipal entity and therefore it's not a gift of public property funds. The resolution will be subject to permissive referendum. The town will have to publish notice of adoption and wait 30 days before the resolution becomes effective and John can actually sign the deed. I don't believe anybody's going to contest giving the parking lot to the fire company. It already de facto is their parking lot. But assuming nobody files a petition, John can sign the deed, they'll file the lot, the deed, they will record the deed, and that'll be the end of the matter as far as the town and the fire company are concerned.
Does any of the board have any questions?
No.
No. So, I mean, it makes sense. It doesn't, for us to keep this broad. Yeah, it is their parking lot. It has been for at least 30 years that I've been involved with the whole situation. So, can I get a motion to allow me to sign a license for them to start construction over the summer?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next is a resolution approving the transfer or exchange of certain real property owned by the town of Philipstown. And this again is a roll call vote.
A lot of roll calls tonight. So this transfer of property is in exchange for OSI releasing the conservation easement on the piece of property that adjoins the salt shed behind our highway department. Putnam County is investing in a communications tower strictly for the emergency services. There will be no cell tower, there'll be no commercial providers, it'll be all in the lease. But in order for them to release the conservation easement on those lots, they need to have an equal exchange of property somewhere within the town of Philipstown. We had surplus lots in Continental Village, which adjoins surplus lots that Putnam County owns, which will give conservation protection to Canopus Creek. So I see no issue. I think it's a great exchange. Steve, would you like to,
Yeah, this is another situation where the town board, if it's its pleasure to do so, is going to have to declare these lots surplus. We'll have to have the deeds prepared, deeding the property over to OSI. Excuse me, they're going to the Hudson Highland Land Trust at the request of OSI. The resolution to allow the deeds to be issued would be subject to permissive referendum again. The other thing that we're going to want, which you're going to want, is some sort of a representation in writing that there will in fact be a release of the conservation easement on the highway department lot to allow the emergency tower to be built. I'm confident that they'll do that, but still you need something in writing just to dot the i's and cross the t's. So we'll put that paperwork together for an upcoming meeting of the board. The county is also releasing some of the lots, actually interspersed with the town's lots as part of this transaction. So we're gonna have to coordinate with them so that everything gets done kind of at the same time. But the main point is that once the deeds are prepared, the resolution will be subject to permissive referendum. We'll have to publish and post again.
This is, this communication tower is the last piece of a puzzle for the entire county emergency services communication system. The east side of the county, they have all the towers in place, and it's probably going to go live by the end of the summer. Unfortunately, we're going to stay on this side with the service that we have until this tower can be installed. So that's why we're pushing. This has been ongoing for, it's got to be a year and a half, 2 years at this point. So, but it looks like we're finally going to get it taken care of. I know the county law department is preparing the lease agreement, which they've had for 4 months, which is, I'm assuming, what the language you're looking for of the release of the.
Yeah, there's no reason it can't be in that.
Correct. Correct. So this is just us transferring the property, which we don't use, obviously. There is a list of the lot numbers that are involved, and this will go over to the Highland Land Trust, which will create a conservation easement in this area. So
The resolution is subject to permissive referendum.
And the village of Nelsonville, is there any, do they have any?
They've been involved
They've been involved.
with the communications. Mayor Winward was here for the meeting with Putnam County, so there is, the tower, I mean, there's been different appearances of the tower, but it'll stick about 40 feet above the back of our salt shed, so unless you're looking, I don't think you're really gonna, I mean, it will be visible, obviously, but it's certainly less visible on that hill behind our salt shed than it would be if we were to bring it down onto the property, in front of the highway garage, which at some point we discussed, because it's necessary. This tower is necessary for Peyton Communications for the emergency services here in town, so it is what it is. I mean, nobody wants to look at a tower, but they need to be able to communicate, so.
John, those properties that the town is exchanging, so those are currently unprotected, but once they go to the Hudson House Land Trust, they'll become protected. Has the land trust said anything about if they have any if they have plans for that Canopus Creek lands, or if they'll be publicly accessible, or are they just protected under easement, or?
Would you like?
I think they'll become part of the preserve there. I believe it's a pretty steep slope on those lots, so I don't think there will be public access on those particular lots, but the idea is I think it'll be sort of subsumed by the larger preserve.
Right.
Any other questions? No, we good? All right, so can I get a motion for the property transfer?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next is the Philipstown Comprehensive Plan Committee to provide a quarterly review of the comprehensive plan action item priorities for 2023.
Well, thank you all for having us. I want to make sure you know which members of the Philipstown Comprehensive Plan Committee you have here with you. My name is Nat Prentice, and this is Greg McGarva right here. Turn towards the camera, Greg. And in the audience, we have Sean Conway, who's also a member of our group. We are, I think, as 6 or 7 of us. 3 are here tonight representing the town board, and the first thing we want to do is congratulate all of you on making New York State comprehensive plan history. We're not sure we can verify that, but we believe that you're way ahead of most towns who, when they do a comprehensive plan, they throw it up on the shelf or in some electronic corner of their website, and then everybody goes home and forgets about it. And you all have seen fit to make sure that you don't do that. So congratulations for your willingness to hear us out every quarter. I'm going to ask Greg just to give you a little reminder about the process we're on, and then you'll find on the second page of what he's handed out just a quick checklist of the things we're working on, which I don't think will take us but a couple of minutes to get through. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
Thank you, Nat. So just looking at the first page there, this is the same pretty much the same piece of paper that we handed out last time. However, the left checks on the left kind of shows the progress that we're down into the second quarter. And with respect to this whole process thing, it's really important, I think, to state that what we're looking for is, what we're not looking for is rigidity. We're looking for informal, flexible, simple structure that keeps all these items moving forward on a kind of constructive basis, but we by no means need to be rigid. There's so many other things involved that we have to be as flexible as we possibly can. And as this is the first year we're going through this, the process itself is pretty flexing as well. So we really appreciate your going along with us on this.
If nothing else, it keeps us aware.
Right. And that's the main goal. Right. That's really the main goal. Right. And how we detail it is kind of, it should fall out as we get through the year. But with respect to what's going on in the second quarter, the status items are on the second page. Nat will be speaking to in more detail. The second bullet there in the second quarter talks about the CPC to review the comprehensive plan, solicit new action items, and that sort of thing. The rest of it's there. One of the points to note there is solicit new action items. We don't really have a concrete answer. What does that mean? I mean, we did some ourselves. You'll actually notice there is a new item on there. It's an item that's not in the comprehensive plan, but we threw it on there because I couldn't quite fit it into a current action item, but it was something we thought might be interesting to look at and might be germane to the times. And then when we do make changes to this document, which is the appendix, the second piece of paper there, that appendix is the document that just kind of keeps track of what's active in the plan. So it's intended to be a quick look of what the town board's priorities are the current fiscal year. It's going to change, and then you'll see there are 3 categories: parked, completed, and active. They're defined there. The definitions are open for, if the definition needs to be tweaked, we can tweak the definition. It's all very fluid. But the idea is to keep these things out here, and at some point, potentially this could be on the website with the plan, so that people looking at the plan can go to just one other document, single page, and say, okay, well, what on this plan are we actually working on? Yeah. Which, to Nat's point earlier about the other folks that do this, and even us in the past, is there was no transparency as to, okay, we do this fancy plan, put it up on the wall, up on the shelf, and okay, how do we know what's being done on it? So this should be a way to keep it visible, simply, just as a summary, and that's it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I yield to my colleague.
Thank you so much.
And I guess, Steve, we need to make sure that we stay in touch with you on this, because I don't know what the legalities are of, if you have a comprehensive plan, are you, without going into a whole new formal update process, are you able to add appendices and change lists, so everything's going to have to be kept kind of informal?
No, if you want to add appendices or lists or anything to your comp plan, it's an amendment to the comp plan, requires secret review, and requires public hearing, and a resolution at least amending the comp plan.
I see, but that in just between us, that doesn't sound like a laborious, I mean, that's a process that can take place?
Oh, yeah, there's some municipalities that every time they want to do a zoning change, amend their comp plan. It doesn't have to be a complete redo of the whole comprehensive plan committee and everything. So they want to add a page, that's fine, but you still have to go through the process. It doesn't have to take months, though. I mean, it can take
whenever
months.
You mention secret review, it strikes me that it takes a whole year, but I guess get one call from Steve Gaba and the whole thing can be fixed, right?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Bill for a couple of calls anyway.
Fixed is, Megan, you're quite right, wrong term, can be pushed ahead.
Yeah, no, definitely. It doesn't have to be a complicated process. We will need an EAF, there will have to be a public hearing, there will have to be a secret determination. Again, though, there's not going to be any impacts from adding a schedule to an amendment. You're not making any substantive change. So I don't think it would have to be a difficult process, but it's a process you still have to go through.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that we can make sure that we're here enough so that Megan gets a good gets a good lot of the comprehensive plan, because
A
we
good
know that
understanding of it all. and
no,
that
your
100 emails
understanding
you
is
sent me.
excellent. I'm just
Don't
not
worry,
sure you
Matt, I
like
got
to
a
see
great
us.
understanding of the comprehensive.
I'm just not so
Trust me.
sure you want to see us every time, but.
I want to see you every meeting, Nat, out here.
Okay, so let's have a quick look at the page, that's the second page down. You will have seen all these items. They just were in a different form when I circulated them to you last week. And Greg has added, over to the left, he has added the goal and the action item itself, that if you wanted to find where in the comprehensive plan this particular action item is found, that's your guide. Okay, we've kept most things on the list, and this is the list that we came to you back in October. So this is the way
We have some progress.
you do. And there's a couple of things we'd like to get an update from you on, but we have a couple of things that we want to update you. We want to take a lead on, but we've used this term active quite a lot, and it means a number of things. I mean, there are some things on this list that really aren't that active. We're waiting, for example, for the Philipstown DEI committee to take some kind of action or to do something, and then maybe we'll see a way to do something to help that or support it. But that's, most of these things, as you point out, John, a lot of these things are pushing right ahead. And so let's sort of, they're either pushing right ahead or they've been deferred for a good reason, or put in a holding pattern for good reason. If we start at the top, and I want to make sure you don't look at the new item down at the bottom just yet, because I think that's a little misleading, because you're already facilitating EV charging stations, but we have a notion about maybe there's another dimension that EV charging, maybe it can become a strategy or a policy, but we didn't mean to suggest that you weren't already doing quite a lot in the EV charging area. But back to the top of the list, as far as fixing the Conservation Development Zoning Code, I think you're all in agreement that we may want to look at that again, but we're just kind of waiting at the moment for.
We have met, Bobby and I met with a consultant. We finally found somebody who was willing to work with us. So we met with them. We told them the situation. We had Neil Zuckerman on.
Oh, you guys are way ahead of us.
We had Neil on the phone, so we went through the concerns, as well as a couple other of the planning board issues. We did get a quote back from this corporation to provide us with the services. It's a little out of reach at the moment.
Well, listen, the fact that you're having the conversation, because the last we knew, it had been put on the back burner, and now it's on the more towards
so
the front burner.
We are seeking alternatives,
Great.
funding, as well as other firms to assist.
Is that
us.
grantable? Could we get another Greenway grant for that?
There are grants available, but we need to sit down and select, the exact firm that we want to work with.
I see.
So-
Okay,
But
good.
we will be continuing to work on it.
Perfect.
Yep.
We're going to skip over schools because we've all agreed that that's beyond the view of this group, at least for now, probably for longer than that. And when it comes to solar energy, we were really pleased to hear Martha Upton's comments on the last meeting about some of the things that she's working on and you're working on. And it's not yet a full solar energy policy, but is a lot of good things happening there. So I hate to keep congratulating you, but this process is sort of working. It's an answer. When it comes to, we'll skip over the DEI, when we're on identifying opportunities and concepts for town-wide wayfaring. Here's an update for you. Alex Cheek, Village of Cold Spring resident, who is a member of our committee but not here tonight, he is working on trying to standardize some of the signage that the village is using. And if in fact they're successful, it may be a theme or a look that Philipstown could look at too. So there's a little bit of an update there, but waiting for the village to kind of process that. Greg assures me that the access to the marsh is proceeding, although I guess there's a couple of issues with Central Hudson. Any particular update there? What do you hear from the marsh, Greg? Or
The Central Hudson lot, I think, is proceeding, correct?
Yes.
The last I knew it was.
Rebecca has a very supportive inside Audubon, things are kind of glacial for the summer, people away, it's a process of time, but she is pushing, she intends to push forward with that. And also, fingers crossed, they went through an application process for her permanent directorship, so they had to advertise it for 2 weeks and get resumes back and go through that. She's fairly confident that once that process goes through, they'll make her permanent director. She's had a lot of support from her board, from her supervisory committee, and we've written letters, so.
I know they were proposing a lot down at in the Audubon property.
Oh, well, they were, but.
Right at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, look at the range, look at the road, they had, Nemus was in there with all kinds of gravel and machines, and a couple months ago, these rains, that road down there is just terrible. So they do have people come down, limited access for very specific programs on weekends. Right. And they literally stand up there, they guide people through and talk to them about the road, and you can get up and down, but it's a little shaky.
But the whole parking situation is not what it was when.
Oh God, no. She is managing getting people down there. We see plenty of hikers going up and down. Love to see them. They're taking great advantage of it. Groups, people, and that's wonderful.
You won't be getting the call tonight, John. Okay. I'll pick up the pace here a little bit here. Trolley management, who would have thought we would have had actually a little progress there? At least we got a conversation going. There's a couple of signs up. The QR code with the trolley schedule wasn't right the first time, but it has been fixed. The trolley itself is now coordinated with the trains. So
It worked.
I hesitate, and there were a few people on it.
Yes.
I was packed when I went into town last weekend.
That's great. So, but at least there's a conversation going, and its usefulness, I believe, is improving. Although it's still a weekend process only, it's not really a public transportation system. It's a way to get around on the weekend.
It's all we got.
That's all we got for now, but the door's open to more conversation, and you're involved, and county executive's involved, and we like the sound of more conversation about its usefulness. What about Tara, how's the website coming?
It's going.
Is it good?
Yep,
Are
it's in the design
Have you hired
process right
somebody,
now.
or?
Oh, yeah, they're in the process of working on it right now. They actually just sent me a sample thing. Kim is working on the site map. Yeah.
Okay,
It's moving along.
It's moving along. All right, you heard it, Greg and Sean. Moving right along. Okay. You all are doing, thank you for all that you've done to keep the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail conversations going. I don't need to tell you that there are plenty of them still going on, but.
No lack of energy there.
Yeah, that's right. But John, the fact that you're in it is just good. We're going to come back to housing, because it may be that if we're going to have a workshop in the future, it may be that we all need to be a little more proactive about housing discussions. I mean, it's as if we're all waiting for somebody to lay a proposal on us, or some readaptive 4 units here or 4 units there to come up. But maybe there are some things that we could be doing to perhaps make it more attractive for somebody to come in. I don't know. I'm out of my league. Sean is our expert on housing. But of this list, if there was one item that we think maybe deserves some more talking about, we could do it that way. What do you think?
I have a question about the affordable housing unit.
Well, of course, the term is bad because it means all kinds of things that we don't like, or we don't like. Megan, don't let me cut you off. What is your concern?
Maybe this is like for a workshop, right? Like
Yeah.
you said, like a little bit more of a discussion where
Yeah, because I think
we can get a little bit more information on what your vision is when you say encouraging the development of affordable housing units.
Okay.
So from the comprehensive plan committee, what does that entail?
Yeah,
For you
well,
guys?
lots of things, because if you read the 2 pages that we've devoted to Goal 2, it talks about all kinds of affordable sort of housing arrangements, like, granny apartments, and so it's the whole idea, I think, is small numbers of additional units, and maybe they come out of.
Do you have a location?
No.
Oh, it's just,
No. This is
This is just
purely,
out into the universe.
this is
Okay.
purely aspirational. This is
Okay, all
trying to create an environment where somebody with a good idea could step forward, or whether one of you say, well, gosh, why wouldn't we want to, adapt or take this old, I don't know, maybe it's a religious order property that could be reimagined.
There's a lot of creative ideas, and especially around emergency services, that fire districts are buying old homes.
Really?
And facilitating them for their volunteers to live
Wow.
in.
Well, that's something we should
Because
think
the
about.
younger volunteers can't afford to
Yeah,
live in
no,
these
that's
communities.
Megan, we have no, the language we've used, and it is worth a reread, has a number of
that's fine.
elements to it, but we have nothing up our sleeve. There's no, we want to have
Don't
this
sell your
great
shelf-
big
shelf
thing
short.
right out here. It's not that
No,
kind of thing.
it's definitely a need in this community.
Well, we'll think about the idea of a workshop maybe to
Sure.
talk about it some more.
Yep.
Well, can I just make one comment, Nat? I mean, I do think, and a lot of these, I do think when I looked at this second page, Greg, that you were presenting the completed section, the final product okayed by the town board. I mean, what comes to my mind is if this moves beyond aspirational stuff, right, then a lot of the devil's in the details of like getting down to what that final product is.
Yeah.
You know, if we're talking about development of affordable housing units, what indicates that there's progress there? What's the goal there? Is that an increase in actual affordable housing units within the town of Philipstown? And so I do think it's worthwhile to kind of have these conversations in order to get to what a final product means and what a goal is and what progress means. I mean, across a lot of these, develop a solar alternative energy policy. It would be good for the comprehensive plan committee to come to the climate smart meeting, have that discussion and say, what is the Climate Smart Committee working on around solar policy? Is that adopting New York State's local model law for solar policy? What are we talking about here when we're talking about some of these things? And I think that does make this process incredibly valuable because we can, actually know
Keeps it all fresh.
and know what we're actually trying to work on besides an aspirational statement.
Well, it is. The time has come to go from aspirational to something a little bit more concrete and something that's a little more measurable. And we heard you, Jason. Thank you.
Yeah.
Last item is.
Greg, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Greg. You better step up. You better stand up so you can get on. Or come up, because I get this all the time. You're supposed to be on TV.
With respect to your comment on all this, one of the things we talk about in the plan is measures. And I think that's what you're hitting on. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it, And so coming up with measures for each of these things, once they get established as, okay, we're going to move forward to it, would absolutely be an integral part of that. And we can help or get someone else to help with it. So.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. I think we're holding up progress here. The last item is just to test you out a little bit to see whether or not it's all the way down to the bottom. It's marked as new, and it has to do with EV charging stations. And we know that you facilitated some charging stations, but I wondered whether there's another dimension to that, and that is, should we have a policy? Who can do charging stations where? Or is that dictated by something else? I don't know. I'm just, yes, Judy.
Do you mean
Sorry, between the two.
commercial? I'm sorry, are you referring to commercial charging stations possibly?
I'm just thinking, I heard a convenience store auto body shop on the other side of the county talking about their future and not having any sense of, they want to take their convenience store in the gas tanks and turn it in. They want to have some charging stations, but they're not sure who's going to be across the street from them, and so it's probably a pretty big question. Now, interestingly enough, there's some help around because this group up in Poughkeepsie, Patterns for Progress, I believe they're called, this consulting arm. They've done a big study about EV charging stations and developing a strategy for it. I happened to spend a little time with Congressman Lawler the other day. Tells me that his office has done a lot of work within the towns that are part of his district, and some are developing some best practices in this area. So there's more we could do. I'm just looking at your faces to see whether or not that's something that we should begin to add to the list.
Don't look at me, Nat, I'm beautiful.
Well,
You know that.
that we know.
I would certainly think that if
that we
this
know.
is something that's coming down, which it seems it's going to be inevitable at some point, we should have some sort of policy in place, so.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. And
Thank
if there's
you.
any questions, we apologize to you two for holding you up, but hopefully not forever. Thank you, and more than anything, allowing us the regular slot here, and thank you for giving us the feedback.
Anytime.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. That's really valuable.
Next on the agenda is an update on the food scrap recycling program from Karen Ertl.
Well, actually, this is one of those places where the town is being proactive because we're 1 year old. On May 16th, we were 1 year old, and we are currently collecting between 400 and 600 pounds of food waste every week, which adds up to over 17 tons in a year, which is not going to landfills. So it is an area where they're being proactive. And in fact, the food scrap compost, which we didn't make personally, but we got, is used on the town hall pollinator garden outside. So you can see it there. It was also offered to the participants in the food scrap program on Earth Day to use in their own gardens. So currently, as of June 25th, we have 190 families who are participating. That's a change from the one I gave you. I got an update. Pardon me?
You must have 6 today.
Yeah, I did. The Cold Spring Farmers Market is continuing to be a courtesy drop. They're not an official second drop-off site, but if you go to the market and you have only one bag to recycle, they will take it and they will bring it up to the recycling center for you. Both the libraries, Desmond Fish and Butterfield, are also joining in the effort. They're collecting their own food scraps. They are also promoting it to anyone who comes into the library and letting them know that it's there. They're reaching out. As I said, we did our first compost give back day, and all the comments have been totally positive. People said it brought them full circle. It was fun to see the fruits of their labors, and we handed out compost from April 22nd to June 3rd. So the details are there, but we are recommending we do it again next year. Similar kind of procedure. We are looking to, hopefully, the advisory committee is recommending that we investigate a second drop-off day, not a second drop-off site. This would allow residents to drop off food at Lane Gate both on Saturday from 9 to 3, and we're proposing that on Tuesday from 8:30 to 2:30. Tuesday drop-off would be unsupervised, and removal of food scraps would then they'd be picked up on Wednesday rather than on Tuesday, which is the current procedure.
So there would be two days worth of drop-offs and one pickup.
Right. One pick, it's no change in terms of cost, but
Gotcha.
there would be 2 days.
Gotcha.
Removal of food scraps, as I say, would be changed from Tuesday to Wednesday, and there was discussion about allowing the public to do other recyclables on the same day with the exception of e-waste, and the advisory committee really felt that that was up to the town to decide. We're just promoting the food scrap drop-off on Tuesday, second day.
I would be a little concerned, and I don't know how you guys feel about the opening the landfill without there being some supervision, because.
You'll get a lot more than
I shouldn't,
food scraps.
yeah. I think we'll end up, you guys know better than I do, because you've been, but just that facility, that gate being open with no supervision, I think would be a little bit risky, but maybe we can get, somebody to cover those hours. I mean, I wouldn't be in favor of opening it without supervision, but we could look into.
Yeah, there are several options that could be done, and it doesn't have to be an all-day long
Yeah, if it's a couple
supervision. It
hours,
could be a
right.
drop-in.
Yeah.
Just to see. Ryan has already said that he would prepare more cans, so there would be prepared empty
Right.
cans for people who came on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the people going there to do the food scraps, because.
It's the other stuff.
I'm worried about somebody going in there and using the landfill as a landfill. like
Yeah,
it
we
once
we
was.
had similar concerns, and that's,
Right.
we felt that part of it needed to be
Yeah.
discussed
Well,
with you.
We'd have to get covered somehow. but-
It is time to do a replacement bag order. We're just trying to restore the bags to back where we were a year ago, so we're sure we're covered for people who continue. You can add to the number that I gave you a $400 shipping for all of them. And so that money would continue to go back to the town. We have a remaining 90 kits at the lane gate, so sooner or later, probably in the fall, if we continue to get people to sign up, we will be talking about replacing those kits. Again, that's a reimbursable item. From April till October, we've been doing pop-up registrations at Cold Spring Farmers Market, and a lot of outreach. People come in and tell us their stories, and it's been very, very positive. But if you have an idea for a pop-up registration, please let us know, because we're always looking to reach out to that. Along with the second day of food scrap drop-off, where the advisory committee is asking the town to consider changing carriers. One of the objectives of this project was the reduction of community greenhouse gases. And right now, our carrier is coming from the other side of the county to here. There is some hope that through the county, they will be picking up as they go back. There is some optimism.
One-way shot.
Right, that we'd be the farthest and then they'd go back. However, even when it came to the compost give back day, it had to come from the other side because that's their vendors who they work with. So we're recommending that we consider changing our carrier, assuming everything is equal, to, it's called Sustainable Materials Management, and their carrier is CRP, which is at Camp Smith. And they're willing to come on Wednesday. They're willing to work with us in the same contract up to the 10 totes, which is the same that Curbside Compost had suggested. So, so that's what we're asking the town also to consider, approving that.
You need us to facilitate any of this at this point, or?
I'm going to defer to Jason.
I mean, I guess our only question was, so the reason, Curbside has been a good carrier. The reason, we went with Curbside over CRP, who does Beacons pickup, is because CRP would only pick up on Fridays when we went out with that first bid, and we were doing the Saturday.
Sitting there the whole week.
And it'll be sitting there the whole week. So CRP has given the advisory committee a quote. It can come on Wednesday. But the last time we did that contract with Curbside, we had a town resolution and a town contract that, Steve, you looked at. And so I guess that was the question to the board. Do we have to, CRP has given us their contract, but the last time we did this, you reviewed it and we kind of had a little bit more of a detailed contract. So that was the question of how would you want to proceed?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, the board needs to adopt a resolution approving it, is what it comes down to. It's under your procurement policy, so gotta be.
Jason, just real quick,
Yep.
so you're saying that CRP, you were originally gonna go with them, but then you didn't, and now we're going back with them?
Exactly. We didn't go with them because their only pickup day they would give us, and they were more expensive. Their only pickup day was like 6 days after the food drop off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand where it would be sitting, I'm just curious,
yeah.
I'm just
The other
trying to
advantage-
get a little understanding as why we didn't go with them, and then now we are, and so.
Yeah, no, that's it. They were more expensive. They wouldn't come on the
And now
right
they're
day.
flexible, and they're able to
And
do
now
more.
they
of this.
drop
Okay.
their prices the same, and they'll come on the
Perfect, okay.
Another advantage to going with
And they're local.
Yeah.
Another advantage to
main.
going with CRP is, since they are the composting facility, they do the food composting right there at Sustainable, it's called Sustainable Management. That's their part of the CRP group. And we can take much more in terms of paper products, paper plates, all those things. We've been kind of saying to people, we're concentrating on food scraps right now, but with CRP, since they are the composters, we can add to what people can give us in terms of their waste.
And it probably just worthwhile pointing out is that CRP also does direct commercial pickup, like Curbside does. So they'll contract privately with an institution or a high school or a business, and they'll do that. And they also
Will they do it through residents, or?
yeah, and so they're open also to residential pickup. If in the future that becomes something that is an option, so we still have that flexibility that we had with them.
Curbside with CRP, not curbside with curbside.
Yeah, very confusing.
Gotcha.
It took us a long time to get that. Yeah, get that down.
Absolutely. Well,
So I guess it's,
if you get a contract from them, we'll get it to Steve for review, and we'll go from there.
It's a resolution to approve it, yeah, no problem.
and in terms of the Tuesday drop-off, how do you want to handle that? Do you want to
We're gonna
wait
have
and
to-
talk about it more?
Yeah, we're gonna need, for me to be comfortable, and I'm sure the highway crew, there's gonna have to be somebody at that facility, because there's just too much people could get.
We
I mean,
do
I-
have preliminary okay from transportation.
You spoke with?
Well, not myself, but Bob did,
Bob did.
yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that gate being open with nobody there, unless they have, and I know the highway crew is in and out of there quite often, but I don't think they have steady coverage, nor do they have somebody that they could put up there to just commit
Stop anybody
for
from
those.
dropping
Right.
anything.
Anything
Yeah.
else off?
We have
there's a
to
lo-
be mindful of,
Right.
yes, it's food traps, which is great,
Yeah.
but people are going to take advantage. Like, unfortunately, that's,
Yeah,
we
that's what
have
we
to
said
look
in
at
here too, that we have similar concerns, and we felt that part of it needed to be discussed.
I mean, I don't know if Ryan is available.
I'll let him speak for himself.
Yeah, so we can ask, I mean, we could certainly advertise for somebody.
because he's been great.
Right, I
Yeah.
mean, well, yeah, he knows the role, but,
He knows now.
He's been informed, he's positive, but I'll let him speak for himself.
all right, so we'll reach out to him first. If he's, you want to reach out to him, Jason?
Sure, or,
yeah,
whoever,
One of us
I'll reach
will.
out to him. Bob's in contact with him
And
a
if
lot.
he's not available, then maybe we can advertise for those
Right.
couple hours and whatever it is. I
Right.
mean,
What, just off the top of your head, what would the vision be? That he'd be there in the morning,
Whatever you think
afternoon,
the-
or midday,
I
or?
mean, it could be a 4-hour span. I mean, whatever you guys
Okay.
think would be, maybe even later in the day when people are home from work or
Right.
after school. Maybe Meg could cover it for
yeah,
a few
right
hours.
on top of that, John. I'm going to squeeze that into my busy schedule.
Yeah, we are talking
The
about
kids
closing
could
at
have a
2:30.
ball up there.
You're going to pay them, they have social security numbers, so here we go.
So
Okay.
we'll
So
certainly look
we'll
into
talk
that.
more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Karen. Thank you so much for all your work.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that?
Next on the agenda is a presentation on the Conservation Preservation Plan.
Good evening, everyone. Ted Warren, Public Policy Coordinator for Hudson Islands Land Trust. Thanks for having us back to talk about the Community Preservation Plan. We were previously in front of the board, I think back in January, but a lot has happened legislatively and with other issues since then. So, things have gone to the back burner, but we are still ready for this plan to come before the board. Just as a brief recap, this community preservation plan is sort of the pinnacle of conservation planning that a municipality can do. What it does is it takes a lot of existing data from things that the town already has on the shelf, your natural resources inventory, your open space index. It adds data from watershed studies, biodiversity studies, the state natural heritage program data, and kind of layers that all on top of each other and uses data layers that have been weighted to identify priorities for the town that are, not just necessarily about conserving forested land or slopes, but also land that is protecting drinking water sources, or land that is in a floodplain to avoid expensive damages the town has to pay for in the future. Land that can be used for recreation, things like that. So really, it doesn't limit the town to a certain type of conservation. This is, like I said, it's basically ready to go, and the town has the option to accept it as an addendum to your comprehensive plan, which is very effective. The other option, one of the main reasons these plans exist is that they are complementary to the creation of a community preservation fund. So Putnam County is part of the New York State Community Preservation Act, which only certain counties here in the Hudson Valley are part of. And in order to establish a community preservation fund, which uses a transfer fee or tax from real estate transactions to populate a fund that can then be used for conservation. In order to do that, you have to have a plan on the books that's adopted as local law. So that would be the reason for going the more complex route and the longer route of adopting it as local law. That would basically make the town a little more flexible if at some point down the road the town wanted to create and also adopt a community preservation fund. So those are basically, that's where we are right now. I am happy to share the plan again with everybody, and we have some sample resolutions that we can send along as well that the folks at the Hudson River Estuary Program have provided us. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of refresh everyone's memory and see if there are any questions or anything like that.
Well, thank you, first of all, for coming in. But Steve, you would like to give a little legal opinion as to where we could go, where we should go.
Well, I wouldn't say should go, that's up to you. But in terms of what's possible, I've heard it mentioned, well, let's take a step back. Your comprehensive plan, which 2021? Is that when we adopted? Yeah, okay. Everything's more long ago now than I think it was. Did it a few months ago, it's 2021. Specifically calls for adoption of the community preservation plan. It's a little light on detail as to what will go into that, although you can kind of read the tea leaves as to what's intended when you read the context, when you read in context of the comp plan. You have a well-prepared, I might add, full-blown community preservation plan before you. And it might just be my ignorance on this, I don't see the advantage of adopting it as an addendum to the comprehensive plan. If the board wants to adopt it, it'll adopt it. If the board doesn't want to adopt it, why is it adding it to the comprehensive plan as an addendum? I don't understand that aspect.
Well, it is arguably complementary to some of the goals of the comprehensive plan. That's really the main reason.
There's a lot of good things in it. I don't deny that. I just don't know that it belongs as part of the comprehensive plan. I don't understand why an unadopted plan, it almost forces the board to adopt that plan without changes if it's going to do it later on, because it's already part of your comp plan. So if you like it, adopt it. If you don't like it, I would not add it to your comp plan.
So the local law would be the way.
Well, if the board is interested in going forward with it, a local law is the way you have to go with the preservation plan. Under the general municipal law, the way that these work, as I understand it, and I'm by no means an expert on this, you probably know more than I do, this is just my review of it, is that you have a preservation plan which discusses your community and identifies particular properties that are either sensitive or desirable for protection. The idea behind it is that the town will make offers. You can't force people, I suppose you can use eminent domain, but that's not what's being proposed here. It's you make offers to buy the properties, which can be funded in a number of ways, but the intent behind the law that was enacted to allow this, and as you rightly point out, it's not all of New York State. There's only designated communities that can do this. We're fortunate in Westchester, Putnam, and Ulster to be among them, is to impose a real property transfer tax. And that's the basic idea behind your community preservation plan is we're going to identify these properties if and when they become available, and we're certainly going to pursue them. We'll try to purchase them. The purchases, by the way, are all subject to a public hearing. You can't just go out and buy them. And we're going to raise money, and like I said, it can be a number of ways, but one of the primary ways that's contemplated, and it's certainly contemplated in your community preservation plan, is to impose a transfer tax. What I've seen in other, because I think the entire process is subject to mandatory referendum. I don't think you can get around that and say part of it is and part of it isn't. What I've seen in other communities is a local law adopting the preservation plan, a local law adopting as a code amendment the fund for the preservation plan, and then a local law adopting a transfer tax for the preservation plan. If a municipality wants to go forward with this, usually what happens is they put all three on the ballot at once, because you don't have to, but it just kind of makes sense to find out if your community's in favor of going for this wholly. I don't know what the board's thoughts on this are, but I've heard anecdotally that they might want to proceed incrementally with this. They might want to adopt a local law, enacting the preservation plan, making it part of the town code, not codified as such, just incorporating it by reference, and then hold off on creating the fund and creating a transfer tax, possibly doing the preservation plan and a fund, but not doing the transfer tax so that you can try to fund it through other means, such as grants or donations from people who wish to donate money toward it. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and you're going to want to think about how you want to proceed on this, but the traditional route would be, we're going to do 3 local laws, we're going to adopt the plan, we're going to create the fund, and we're going to impose the tax.
So even to adopt the conservation plan, it would go to referendum.
The general municipal law specifically provides that adoption of the plan is subject to mandatory referendum.
Oh, wow.
It has to be done by local law.
I don't understand that.
And it has to be done no less, pretty much, because it's got to be in final form, no less than 60 days before it goes up for referendum. Normally, these involve imposition of a tax, so when it does involve imposition or approval of a tax, it has to be a election at the general election in November. That's what, if you did this now, you would be looking at anyway. I guess it's theoretically possible you might wind up with a special election if you did it at a different time of year, but that's not where we're at right now, so.
Can I make a recommendation that we schedule a workshop to specifically discuss this and come up with our own idea as to what route we want to take? And
Because it definitely raises a bunch of questions.
there's a lot to it.
It raises a bunch of questions.
Yeah, and in fact, we did do some, back, I believe last year, we did some survey work specifically about the establishment of a community preservation fund, and we found that there was a lot of ambivalence in the town on that. But yeah, certainly the town could go ahead with adopting the plan
Right.
and then revisit the idea of adopting a
we can
fund at
take
some
it
point in
one
the
step
future,
at a
yeah.
All right, so we'll schedule a workshop. We have the month, we would have to do it, Steve, 60 days prior to the general election, which would, we would
I
need.
believe it needs to be adopted by September 8th, but I'm not good at math, so I would do it no later than September 1st if I
Hold
were
any
you.
questions until that workshop? I just have questions based on wanting to get some more general understanding.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Right,
No,
that's
go
up
ahead.
to-
We can further discuss it at a workshop, but if you have something that you'd like to address currently, go ahead.
I mean, I didn't,
Absolutely.
I guess my main question would be, I never understood that just the community preservation plan would require a referendum. So that's just one piece, and I know referendums come with cost and a lot of work. So I guess my main question would just be, Ted, why would a community, that community preservation plan is just identifying kind of future community projects that are priorities for preservation. They could be maintenance of recreational areas, we've discussed that. But the fund, the real estate transfer tax, was how to kind of fund and pay for those in the future. Why would a community adopt the preservation plan and not adopt the transfer tax, have to go to ballot referendum to adopt that plan, but not have any of the funding to implement that plan? Is it because some communities would then still create a fund? Maybe that's too much, but that's like,
Well, it would enable us to receive grants.
Right. So having a community preservation plan is a really beneficial thing for a municipality if you're looking for grant money from the state, from the DEC, from the Hudson River Estuary Program. They like to see these kinds of plans in place, and it means that a town is, means business.
Well, even if we do the fund would have to be, the fund requires its own board to manage, if I remember
Right.
correctly. So-
Those tend to be, decisions that are made for the spending of those funds are done by a board
So
or a
if
committee
we-
that's
If we did the
appointed by the town.
plan and not the fund, would we be able to receive grant money?
Depends on what the grant requires in order to
Because
get
there
it.
would not be that board established until we did the fund.
Right. I mean, my understanding is that a board is really only necessary for spending money specifically from a community preservation fund. If you had this plan on the books and you were to, say, go for a Highlands Conservation Act grant, you know, that 75% of the funding, and you needed to find 25% match, you know. That's a different matter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I seem to recall that realtors are opposed, is that accurate?
Realtors have, in the past, been, well, I'll say that the State Realtors Association has mounted opposition campaigns to the creation of community preservation funds in some municipalities, not all. The town of Marbletown and Gardner recently passed community preservation funds, and there was no opposition. Now, that could have been that the NISR realized that it was going to pass and it was, you know, not worth spending the money on a campaign. They mounted a very vigorous campaign in New Paltz, and they lost. So there is some pushback from the Realtors Association. By the same token, there are a lot of realtors who are looking at successful funds that have been on the books for a while, like in the town of Warwick across the river, and they've seen that these conserved lands, the property values around these conserved lands go up, and so it actually works out better for them as an industry.
I did speak with some of the local realtors who really didn't have any opposition to
Yeah.
funds.
It depends on the municipality. It depends on the
They really got to know this
the
community.
landscape. Excuse the pun, but yeah.
And the tax is imposed on the buyer, not the seller.
Taxes are imposed on the buyer, and there's a lot of discretion that's left to the town. You know, it can be a 0.75% tax. It can be a 1.5% tax.
And
It
the
can
polling for any of those.
Right. When we did the polling, you know, there was slightly more opposition to a higher tax, of course.
The timing wasn't the best.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of, well, not a lot, but certain contentious issues facing the town and the region. You know, the other thing that the town has discretion over is, you know, where that tax kicks in. I mean, most towns will do a median sale price for a home. You know, some towns will say, no, nothing under $500,000 or nothing under whatever. You know, you can sort of tailor it to make it, you know, in theory, more palatable to the community.
Ted, is that also your understanding? Not downing Steve because you're named the Putnam County top corporate counselor, whatever it was in the. But is it also your understanding that just the community preservation plan itself requires a ballot referendum?
To be honest, I was under the impression that it could be passed by resolution of a town board. I was under the impression that that's what the city of Kingston had done, that it did not go to a ballot measure. I should know more about that.
That would be good. That would be good.
And so I will look into that.
Good to clarify. For August, a workshop in August?
Yeah.
What do you got?
John, I'm writing it.
Well, should we do it later?
So Steve, you may be right. I should know that, but
Well, I don't want to make a big deal about it, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
yeah, okay, all right. I just don't remember Kingston waiting until the November election, but you know.
That would be good to have.
I'm looking at the text of General
Yeah.
Municipal Law 6A, and it specifically says that it has to be by local law for the plan.
For community preservation plans.
And the plan has to be completed at least 60 days before the submission of mandatory referendum. So
Okay.
I just don't see a way
Okay.
around it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong. It's possible.
So we probably could, the first week of August, what does that look like for people?
That's August 2nd. Our regular meeting is August 3rd. I mean, that's,
The second week, Wednesday the 9th? Does that work?
What, August, did you just say August 9th?
My daughter's going to college.
I was gonna say, I'm actually not available the 9th, 16th, 23, we're away.
The whole month?
Not the whole month, but I'm busy in the 9th, and then we're away from the 16th to the 23rd.
All right, so let's go, can we meet in July? We can still meet in July. The 12th, 19th, or the 26th? Oh, I'm away next week, so the 19th or the 26th?
The 19th, I could do.
I know.
19th I could do.
19?
What do you want?
Nothing.
The 26th,
I said, I know my schedule
Or the
doesn't matter.
the
It does matter, Tara.
26 I could do too, so.
19?
19 to
26th,
26
it
for
looks
me.
like it's the 26th.
26?
And
fine,
we
I'll
are,
take
of
Kelly.
course, happy to,
Yeah, obviously,
to offer, you know,
Yeah, we'll work
to
through
be a
your
part of the
19th to
conversation
26th
if
work for me.
desired.
both dates. You're not available the 19th.
No, I'm not available. Well, the 26th is my daughter's 13th birthday.
Yeah,
It's
no,
my
you're not
only
available
point.
the
I'm just-
So let's do
I'll
the-
just make Kelly do it. You can
let's-
do it either night.
Okay,
It's
let's
just
do it
one of us.
the 19th. Steve, would you be available?
I'm available the 26th, I'm not available the 19th.
Okay, we're doing it on your daughter's birthday.
That's fine.
So we're going to do it July
Kelly will be
26th.
I'm not here.
You're not here?
Bob will probably be back.
All right, we'll get you in somehow. So we'll do it this 26th of July.
And unrelated to the CPP, going back to that conversation about affordable housing, I like to call it workforce housing. The Hudson Highlands Land Trust is involved with a strategy, Hudson Valley Affordable Housing and Conservation Strategy Group, that is looking at the potential nexus of affordable housing and conservation, and how projects could be brought forward that incorporate both those things. We're moving on to phase 2 of this strategy group that is going, there's going to be a subcommittee that I'm on that's going to be focusing on municipal outreach for providing information and education to municipalities. So, you know, there's an opportunity for some future discussions there about that. Totally unrelated.
All right, so we're going to be here the 26th at 7 or 7:30, which works. Steve, can you make 7?
Oh, sure.
7 o'clock? So we'll do it for 7?
I'm not going to be here either way, so it
Well,
doesn't matter
you
to
got to
me.
advertise, that's what I'm saying. 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, all right.
Thank you, peeps. All right, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is a resolution in support of the old Putnam Motors building to be used as open space, and this is a roll call vote.
Okay, so I was contacted by Richard Othmer, who's a former member of the legislature, Putnam County Legislature. He's also the highway superintendent in the town of Kent. And I was also contacted by the American Legion, which is in Carmel. So this property is adjacent to the county courthouse. Putnam County Legislature moved to sell the property. For whatever reason, I don't know. They purchased it a long time ago to preserve that piece from being utilized for anything else. There is currently what was Putnam Motors on that site. So apparently there is some movement to sell this piece of property now to a commercial developer, and it would change, the feeling is it would change the face of the front of the building. So, as well as the American Legion. So they're looking for us, several other townships have signed on to this to preserve this, have the county hold on to it and make it a green space for Putnam County. Just demolish the building that's there, make it a green space. My concern was, you know, is there a financial loss for the county? I don't really think the county is in any financial trouble currently. So I do support this. I spoke with Richie Othmer today, who was on the legislature when they purchased the property. Then Bob Bondi retired, the Libel situation, and then Mary Ellen came on. They've held on to this property, then all of a sudden now there is a push to unload this piece of property. So we did prepare a resolution. It was matched, you know, this is the last minute thing. It came in. We have a copy of the town of Carmel's, this was?
I think, yeah, this was Carmel that this came from.
Steve,
yep.
did you have an opportunity to look at it?
Yeah, I talked to Tara before the meeting. Looks fine to me.
Looks fine for Steve. So, does anybody have any questions on it? Thank you, Tara. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
It's just a clarification, this is a county level decision, but towns are just passing this kind of symbolic resolution of.
Forward this to the
Okay.
legislature to
Okay.
say, please, you know, don't sell this.
Okay.
Demolish it and make it a green space,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
So, anything else? Anybody have any questions on it? Audience have any questions on it? Concerns? Nat, you're probably aware of it. So can I get a motion to forward this letter to the Putnam County Legislature to retain the property formerly known as Putnam Motors and to demolish it and create a green space? Can I get a motion? Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Councilwoman Farrell.
I vote aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda is to schedule any workshops or meetings. We now have the workshop for July 26th at 7 o'clock regarding the community preservation plan, and our regular meeting is scheduled for August 3rd at 7:30.
Anything else that we need to work on? I cannot locate my agenda here. I know it's here somewhere. There it is, thank you. Anything else we need to meet on? Does anybody have anything?
No, I'm fine.
No, we're good, so we'll meet the 26th?
The 26th and then August 3rd.
The 26th is at 7.
Yep,
Yes.
7 PM.
Yep. Next on the agenda is the Code Enforcement Monthly Report. This is for June. Total fees collected was $38,140.30. There were 45 total permits issued. 2 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 43 all other permits. There were 10 certificates of occupancy issued and 2 permits issued for the use of pyrotechnic devices.
Oh, I was wondering about the Boscobel issue, is that?
Yes, the fireworks that
Yes,
were
fireworks.
sent were permitted by the town. They were also, West Point was also notified that they were going to go off. I did reach out to Boscobel as well as the complainant. There seems to be a miscommunication. Boscobel has a hotline for complaints, which was manned that night, and there was no calls. So they are working with the community to do their best to keep noise, and I have requested a formal response from Boscobel as, to the complaint, which I have not received yet, but I will look into it some more. But the fireworks were certainly permitted. They were permitted through through Greg, and West Point was notified that they were going to happen as well. And they were on the river. It's not like they were over somebody's, but they were from a barge on the Hudson, so must have been some wedding. So, yes, so that was taken care of. Again, I'm waiting for a response from Boscobel, formal one.
Next is any other business that may come before the town board.
There's one thing that I came to mind for whatever reason the other night was at the end of the year, we had mentioned the town and the school adopting the 10% tax reduction for the emergency services volunteers. I would like to have somebody be on it. I certainly can't be involved, nor can Bobby, because we're both emergency services providers, but is anybody willing to take William? Okay. Somebody help? Wouldn't one of you, Judy,
Judy, I would have to help.
all right, so we'll form that committee, and you guys can, you would probably start with Brian, meet with Brian and say, this is what we'd like to do. And then we certainly should approach the school, because for it to really have any meaning, we need to get that through with the school. So that's a committee formed. So we'll get
I know
it.
that's already happening in communities across New
Yeah,
York.
the county adopted it
The county
at the end of the year, but the timing just didn't work, according to Brian and, our legal, that for us to do it last year. But I would love to have that in place for the emergency services volunteers for the 2024 calendar year. That's all. I have nothing else to report.
Next is anything from the audience.
Anything from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Constancia Dinky Romilly. This was a great meeting, really fascinating, I have to say. Better than the last one.
I mean, we tried.
I won't tell Bobby you said
I
that.
know, right?
I'm thrilled to hear about the cell tower for communication.
Not a cell tower. But
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
The communication tower, however the technology is, whether it's cell or non-cell, that's going to be very exciting for those of us who live, on this side. Especially if you permit those 24 houses to go up there. We're going to really need a lot of emergency communication with that flood that we had last Monday night, where water was just running down every street in the village, and up there on the mountain, I'm surprised no houses washed away. It was really phenomenal. Okay, the Philipstown Comprehensive Plan Committee. That was great. Is there any place a person can read that? Is it on the website? Yes, absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you. That's it. Good night.
Yeah, we're going to put your face right on.
If you have any trouble finding it, just call the office and I can help you get to it.
Thank you.
Tara's
No
right.
problem.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Thank you.
For vacancies, we still have the one on the Rec Commission, and now unfortunately, we have one on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So we can advertise them again.
Yep.
You guys kicked some, we need some people for these boards, so let's get out there. Sometimes,
I will get out there.
some people need a little nudge sometimes.
I don't have any friends.
Okay. Approval of vouchers, general,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Highway,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Continental Village Park District,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Continental Village Water District,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you so much.
Second.
Second.
You're going to second it.
Aye.
Aye.